All of us can be involved. Advocacy should be strengthened across all levels. As a matter of fact, the idea of waste management, proper waste disposal, and even the value chain of waste. Gone are the days where we see waste as just waste. We should begin to see it as an economic part of our lives where we can make wealth from waste.
Environmental disturbances in Nigeria cause significant hardship for households, leading to health issues like respiratory and cardiovascular diseases from air and water pollution, displacement due to flooding and coastal erosion, environmental degradation, reduced agricultural productivity, worsening food insecurity, and perpetuating poverty. These disturbances are affecting ecosystem services that households depend on for resources and livelihood, are driven by factors like industrial activities, waste management, and climate change, disproportionately affecting vulnerable households and limiting access to vital resources like clean water and fertile land. Also, flooding and rising sea levels are forcing communities to relocate, leading to property loss and contributing to urban congestion and potential resources management issues in receiving areas. Hello everyone, it's WebTV Focus program. Welcome. I am Gabriel Jude from Lagos, Nigeria. Today we will focus on effective flood mitigation and waste management in Nigeria. And my guest is Mr. Babajide Olusegun. He is a quality health safety environment consultant, HUB Engineering Services Ltd. You're welcome to the program.
Good morning. Pleased to be here.
All right, before we begin the conversation, let's listen to the voice of Nigerians on environmental matters, and we'll be right back.
Everybody has to be responsible. Know that my actions or inactions will contribute to flooding or make the whole place not to be conducive. So the second step is we do not block water pathways. There's some pathway that government has already set up for where water is supposed to pass through. There's no need to build structure there or try to block the water pathway. Another thing is look at what disturbs the water from flowing. Is it maybe our drainage systems? Maybe clean it up. Maybe clean it up before rainy season. We don't have to wait until this rainy period before we start making pathway for the water. I think we should plan ahead, clean the sewage, keep the drains. Everywhere should be well. The government and both. As I said, everybody. It's a team effort, both the government and individual, able to get our drainages kept clean and then ready for water. Another thing is proper disposition of waste. We shouldn't dispose waste and other garbages directly into this to drainage lines. We should be an effective way of disposing the waste. Because those things they block water from flowing. And when the water don't have access to flow, they're supposed to flow, it now comes back to us. So you see that our actions or what we do affects us too.
Especially here in Lekki, the flood here is really disturbing. Like, you know, when it's rain, the road get flooded and then it causes a whole lot of hold-ups. And I think if we must get rid of it, like we need to get a good drainage and then make sure the road is being tidied up. Like, you know, most of these dirties and nylon, all those stuff, you know, they block the drainage and by then not making it flow as it's supposed to. So I think the drainage, the gutters, we should like let government work more on it, like make it go deep down what it is, like make the casting more solid and widening. Understand? Then see help in, you know, giving us a good road, like a wide road. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If rainfall, there is no way for the water to flow out to the main site. So the water will always be in the environment that is not supposed to be.
Disadvantages of having these blockages is that one, there is airborne diseases as a result of blockage of the drainage system, and there could be also high rate of malaria. You know, these drainages, they harbor mosquitoes, and mosquito is really the cause of malaria. Yes, so when they harbor mosquitoes like that, there will be high rate of malaria, which can even cause deaths, not just in children and in adults too.
My thought on how to, mitigate flood. First of all, we look at the local areas where and the markets, open markets, where we're in a situation where it's raining, in a situation where it's raining and people have been dropping their refuse inside. We have so many places like that all over, not only Lagos, even in the other states and regions as well. So how do we have people that that maybe law enforcement or a department that look into it? How many people, how many law enforcement or people in that department visit areas when it's raining? Nobody. It's been happening. So actually, there are associations in the market, there are rules in the market. Or how have them be able to to make effect on it to ensure that people practice this. There's difference between the law and there's difference between how you can educate people to practice it. We have different ways currently. People drumming plastics and other things, waste products into the place that they created for erosion to pass through. So these are things that we need to look into it. Yeah, there is law, because when you make your findings now, the government will say, or federal government will say, there is law put in place. But who are the people, making this law effective? We need to start from the grassroots, the education in the schools, everywhere. We have new generation coming up, the younger ones. Let them understand the importance of those schools. Have different kind of waste bins where one will be for plastic. And yeah, we've seen our institution, Unilag, practicing that. Some other institution doing that as well. So, but we need to continue. We need to continue. Maybe there's a course that we need to develop to ensure that this thing, even the waste, there are things that we can use it for to generate electricity and all those things like that. So it's a lot. And again, the present drainage we have in the country, the past one that we're still trying to manage is too small to contain the pressure of the water coming. So we need to look into, and the ones that have been created recently, we need to look at maybe how damaged it is and maintain it to ensure that it's giving us what we need. And we look at dredging. There are some ways we are abusing the oceans. I'm kind of, but it's kind of, we are sandfilling and all those things. The area you sandfill, because you're only trying to, you want to cheat the nature. No matter how you cheat the nature will find its place and come. You understand? These are why roads in Lagos today, some of the roads, you see that it's not well managed, and the way it was constructed at the beginning, it was not quality enough to withstand the kind of water basin that we have in Nigeria, in the state. So we need to work on town plan. We bring the experts, not just I have you in the politics. I have my children. I want him to come, and he's not an engineer. Yeah, we don't do seismics. We don't do seismics while we are constructing roads to know that in the future there's going to be a crack or something in between this place. We don't do that. A survey plan, a concrete survey plan, so that wherever it needs to be refilled accordingly, it's supposed to. So at the end of the day, this bounce back to the erosion system.
Right. That was so concerning. From the video, you heard that one of the people that talk about law enforcement agency visiting local areas during rainfall, and there should be also town planning mix and all of that. I don't know if you agree with that, but then while reacting on that video, we recently seen that the federal government gave warnings to 11 states about flooding. And so in this regard, we have so far seen in the first phase, of which we may likely encounter the second phase of flooding as forecasted, that some states like Benue State, Taraba State, Adamawa, Niger, and all of that, Ogun State, Edo States have been impacted. They have issues with flooding. Now, how can you assess this effort of mitigating flood in Nigeria, especially at this time we have the forecast for second phase?
I think from what the respondents to that interview on the street has said, we all have a role to play. From government to every citizen, we all have a responsibility when it comes to managing flood. Government will do what government should do, and citizens also should do what citizens should do. Talking about what government should do, of course, in terms of policy direction, in terms of funding initiatives that can actually help mitigate flooding. Then also citizens in terms of advocacy, in terms of, taking care of our immediate environment, how we manage our waste, how we dispose our waste. And, these are all responsibilities that fall on every individual. Having said that, looking at the how we are fed as a nation with respect to mitigating flooding, of course, we have all kinds of flooding. We have the coastal flooding, which I would say Lagos State and a few other states around the coastal region, suffer this. We have flood as a result of flash floods. We have urban flood as a result of also construction and a whole lot of construction sites and other issues with respect to how the drains are being managed and all that. You have riverine flood as a result of maybe the bank of the river overflowing, maybe from the river Niger or river Benue or any other river within the country. So these are types of flood, that can happen. But in terms of how we are fed in terms of mitigation, I would say the government or government agencies have actually done well in some areas. Areas like early warning mechanism. When you look at the agency, Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency, they usually give early warning signs to states and to communities, some to relocate, some to take precaution. And one of the recent one was the one you quoted, giving that early warning sign to about 11 states to actually take caution. And some areas, if you need to relocate so that you are not caught in the web of the disaster that flood can bring. So in terms of that, I think government have done well. Then also community-based flooding forecasting, they've also done well, by forecasting what could happen, in several communities. I think to that extent, they've done well. But when it comes to other aspects, for example, the key aspect that also contribute to flooding are dams. When those dams are open, the flood that comes from it, let's take, for example, the Onion Dam in Ogun State. When it is opened, it leads to flooding on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway around that OPIC axis and all that. So consequently, I would say most of those dams are old. Some of those dams, for example, the Ashejire Dam in Oyo State has been there ever since. The Toga Dam in Kano was built in 1974. That's a long time ago. Okay. Then we have the Onion Dam, which was in 1983. It's a long time. So most of those dams are old and begging for maintenance and rehabilitation. In fact, we need to build more dams so that at the end of the day, these dams will not inherently give result into flooding because of lack of proper maintenance and incapacity. Also saying that where government have not really responded so well in terms of rural engagement. For example, let's say Lagos and some other big cities in the country have some level of capacity to respond in times of flood. But when you look at some rural areas across the nation, they don't really have that capacity in terms of response. Of course, the local government is the closest to the people. So the question is, how many local government have that capacity to respond to flood in terms of capacity, in terms of how to resettle the people, in terms of giving palliative, in terms of rescuing people, search and rescue and all that. Look at, for example, what happened in Niger State. What was the rate of the local government, the rate of response of the state when it happened? So what we are saying is that we need to do more with respect to that. And also where we have not really done well is how to really encourage citizens to be involved in adaptive agriculture, in the sense that, for example, having crop rotation, mixed cropping, also having a lot of afforestation activity, planting of trees and the rest of it. These are all mitigative ways of reducing flood. I know some state governments are taking initiative. The Ministry of Agriculture is taking some initiative to make sure people plant trees and all that, just to cut the flow of flood when it starts happening. But we need to do more of that. The rate of engagement in that regard, especially interaction with the communities, is not really strong.
I am much concerned about relocation. So in this case, where you see that the warning has come and federal government has said people should relocate. Let me come in with the issue of climate resilience infrastructure. The question is Nigeria making progress in this regard?
When it comes to resilience in terms of climate, with respect to our infrastructure, I think we are making some progress. Initially, you talked about relocating people, maybe as a result of flood and all that. Some states have, made some considerable investment in building relief camps. I know Lagos State has a relief camp around the Gondo axis. Whether it is sufficient to accommodate people in terms of flood is another. People are aware, but we can do more of advocacy, But at least there is a considerable amount of investment in that regard, and also we've not really had a serious case of serious flood that would overwhelm that facility yet. I'm talking about this kind of scale we have in Niger State. But I'm saying every other state should also take a cue and have such kind of relief camp where you can hold and house people in case of flooding emergencies like that. And the African Development Bank is also making some, mobilizing some fund in that direction to support that initiative. But when it comes to the gaps, we have some gaps. And part of those gaps is that, of course, there is a Paris Agreement where Nigeria is a signatory to 197 countries of the world are a signatory to that Paris Agreement to cut down on global warming to as low as 1.5 degrees Celsius. And Nigeria is a signatory to that agreement. And the country is also working hard to meet that gap, that target. But having said that, there are a lot of gaps when it comes to meeting that. And I would say there's minimal funding. The funding with respect to mitigating flooding or even general climate change. There are other climate change issues like drought and the rest of them, people or some government pay lip service to that, And when it comes to the administration of ecological fund, another fund targeted towards mitigating climate, I'm not sure all the state governments are really putting that money to where it should be. Some see it as, another money to really throw around other projects when the issue of climate is really biting hard. So we really need to do more in terms of funding, one. Then also in terms of adaptive agriculture, we need to really encourage, the local communities, the local government to take their pride of place in terms of advocacy, in terms of reaching out to the people in a language that they will understand, strengthening of the early warning signals and all that across the local governments, far within those hinterlands where they don't have access to telecommunication equipment and other sophistication that we can talk of in the city.
I am also more concerned about, the coordinated effort in which we do this. I know you talked about some things that the state, at local level, at national level, government should do to mitigate these things. But what are the coordinated effort do you think to prevent and stop the waterfront?
All right. Nigeria is a very complex nation in that we have 36 states and the FCT, 774 local governments. But when it comes to disaster or flooding or general effect of climate change, it's always the best to have a concerted effort in terms of facing it. I would say the federal government has a role to play, especially in policy direction for the entire country. Then also conducting, the Ministry of Environment spearheading this and conducting vulnerability assessments in every locality across the country. So we must work with that partnership between the local government. For example, the partnership between local government, the federal government and Lagos State government when it comes to doing research around the coastal area, looking at the coastal resilience and the rest of them. Those are the kind of collaborations that would really help. Then also, there are some recommendations that would really be apt. The state government also need to take initiative and also try as much as possible to invest, in nature-based solutions, okay? And also funds that are ecological fund should be should get to the local governments so that they can also push some local initiative, especially initiatives like, I know of a school in Lagos around Bariga that, the school have just resumed last week. All parents need to do is to come with a considerable amount of plastic waste in lieu for their children's school fees. That initiative is ongoing presently in Lagos. Of course, it's a private initiative. But what we are saying is that it can be strengthened in the local government where everybody see waste management, erosion of flood control as everybody's responsibility. So that is at the local government level. We need to really see that everybody is on the same page with respect to that.
So how can we have a clean environment by the way of managing our waste, especially in the place of PPP?
Public-private partnership. Yeah. Okay. I think PPP is a very beautiful idea when it comes to the climate and when it comes to waste management. Lagos State is doing something beautiful in that regard. There is an MOU in place now in terms of managing waste. I can say for between Lagos State government and Lafarge Africa, Lafarge Cement, adopting the Olusegun dump site. And very soon we'll see some activity around that axis where Lafarge have that responsibility to sort those waste and use those waste considerably in powering their cement factory at Ewekoro, which is a very beautiful one. Presently, Lafarge does about 45% of their energy need through alternative fuel source, as against 100% dependence on fossil fuel. So I'm saying if Lafarge is adopting Olusegun dump site and trying to recycle waste from plastic, waste from tires, waste from other materials, maybe except for solid waste and maybe medical waste and electronic waste, I'm saying it will go a long way. So we have other dump sites in Lagos, like the one at Super along Ilepo. There's the one along Igondo axis and all that. So I'm saying if other private initiative can also adopt such sites in terms of turning those waste into energy, to power industries rather than, burning fossil fuel, then it will bring down our carbon emission drastically and it will help the environment. So public-private initiative could be in diverse ways. I've talked about the industrial one. Then there can also be other players coming into the ecosystem. But your own might be okay. Scouting, we have a lot of scavengers on the street, scouting for those waste and all that. That's a value chain. They pick them, weigh them, and sell to those big organizations who also recycle and use for other uses.
So what about the ones we see on the road?
Okay.
How can we do this individually and as a community? How do we come into play here? Yes,
we can do a lot. Even a child in school can become so conscious of the fact that when I drink a bottle of water, I don't indiscriminately dispose the waste. I've given you an example of what is happening in Bariga with a school where they pay tuition with their bottle water that they've amassed. So parents do that. So I'm saying all of us can be involved. Advocacy should be strengthened across all levels. As a matter of fact, the idea of waste management, proper waste disposal, and even the value chain of waste. Gone are the days where we see waste as just waste. We should begin to see it as an economic part of our lives where we can make wealth from waste. I think that would change the perception of how people handle their waste.
Okay, so now as we wrap up, the Nigerian society rated waste management, as and population, pollution, energy efficiency at 90%. Now topping environmental sustainability challenging in the country, so this means that we need an urgent attention to environmental safety. And now, how and what would be your recommendations to the federal government, the state and the local level?
Okay. I think when it comes to managing the environment, the federal government would actually be very strong in policy direction. The federal government, most of this, of course, we don't have, it's not as if we have a dearth of laws, but in terms of enforcement, we need to do more, you know. And gone are the days where we used to have the environmental sanitation, I think once a month. Some states brought it back. Some states, for example, Lagos State made it every Thursday at the market level, you know.
But it seems like it's not effective.
It might not be effective because if I'm not a market person, you know, I might not be too bothered. So, but I'm saying everybody should be bothered. So we should have a national policy with respect to that. Then also there should be a kind of responsibility placed on industries on the end result of their waste that they produce. For example, people doing bottling, the people doing beverages and all that, they should be concerned about how their waste end, the bottle, the PET bottle, how it ends. So they should be involved in the process of decommissioning that waste to see that, yes, that waste is either turned into wealth, maybe through recycling or whatever. There should be a policy that guides, you know, that the end of that waste. That is from the federal government. And from the state government, in terms of enforcement, of course, every state has a Ministry of Environment. There should be considerably enforcement, moving around organizations to see how their waste is being managed, you know, and also without compromise. Because what we get is, oh, when they come, once you show them brown envelope, they are gone. But the idea is, let's be firm, let's do the right thing at every level, including the local government, so that at the end of the day, local government is the closest to the people. So local government should be interested in the market space, how waste is being managed, how waste is being transported, how waste is being recycled. In some other climes, in fact, federal government will just do policy. When it comes to the real implementation of some of those things, it's in the local government. That's the closest to the people. So advocacy should be ongoing at the local government level in different languages where people understand that, okay, I must protect the environment, I must take ownership of the environment, I must manage the waste. For example, you live in a flat, you live in a compound. You don't need the government to come and tell you to desilt the drains in front of your compound so that you can allow flow of water, flood or water when there is rain. This should be, the CDAs should take ownership, house owners should take ownership. Local authorities should come and inspect, regular inspection. In those days, we used to have local inspectors combing every street, trying to check compliance, how people manage their waste. I know there was a time Lagos was enforcing disposal bin, you know, in front of every houses. I don't know if that is still on, you know. Then in terms of segregation of waste, I think these are things we should be able to do at the local level. In terms of every household, you should be able to segregate your waste, solid waste, medical waste, electronic waste, you know, those categories of waste, so that it is easier for people, the Loma people or those in charge of collection of waste when they come around. It's easier for them to manage and all that. So a lot of advocacy needs to be done at all levels.
I would have loved to speak more on the regulations in terms of clean environment, but then because of time, let me quickly have your words of advice for the states that have been issued warning against the second phase of flood. What do you think? What would you advise?
I think to them, they need to do the needful. Every governor of every state and the local governments that are affected should you know, try as much as possible to desilt all drains, encourage, do a lot of advocacy for people. Then in some critical areas where there is need for relocation, I think they extended the call to about 23rd of September. It was initially 13 to about 18 or so. Now they extended to about 23. So they need to evacuate that environment, you know, over this window of period that have been given. I think they need to do so. They need to be alive, you know. And in terms of hygiene, proper hygiene and desilting of the drains, the water channels that are blocked, you know, they need to make them true. Then I will also say in terms of infrastructure and town planning, we need to do a lot.
What about the water that they were told not to take within those period?
Okay.
I think it's 2 weeks about thereabout.
Drinking of
So not to drink water from the well, from their boreholes. So I'm wondering where they will get water from.
because the health implication of taking such water, especially when you know that the water has been compromised, can be very damning. So I would say for that window of time, they need to get alternative sources of water. And if they are in a climate where they need to relocate because of the level of prediction of the rainfall and the attendant flooding that will come, I think it's better to stay alive, to heed those warnings by the relevant agencies, so that at the end of the day, we won't be counting our losses after the rains are gone.
All right, thank you so much for this conversation. It was indeed an interesting conversation and well enlightening. Thank you so much, sir.
It's a pleasure.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir. And that will be all for this conversation on WebTV Focus today. For more information and knowledge on finance, the market, banking, the economy, and investing, please visit the ProShare website, YouTube channel, and follow our social media platform displayed on the screen. Moreover, if you have any concerns and questions about what we do, please do well to put them in the comment section, and that will be appreciated. Thanks everyone for watching. I am Gabriel Jude, and have a great day.